presentation that I made the decision that I needed to go, one, and get this bioscan done. And I went directly to Chicago, met him there. Also Sharon did mine, and had those bioscans done, and then came back up and said, okay, we need to get to work. I need to work on me. And so I started that cleanse. Many of you know I lost what, 12 pounds of waste during that time, and still working on me. So it was through his inspiration and what I had listened to on a number of presentations that he has done that has helped make, that decision and make that change. So I want to introduce our doctor in the house, Dr. Eric Prince, a naturopath on the Wakana Advisory Board. Hello, Dr. Prince.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Great. How you doing, Fatima? And hello to everyone. So
Hey.
I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I'm definitely here to answer any questions, but we're going to talk about a couple of things because I want you to know how important it is to be cleansing and detoxifying your body. This is a habit that we have never developed in our upbringing because our parents wasn't in a habit of cleaning and detoxifying their body. Their parents weren't in the habit of cleaning and detoxifying their body. So the consequence of not cleansing and detoxifying the body is disease. It's black and white. If you're not cleansing, then what's happening is toxicity is building up year after year after year. So you know what it looks like? It looks like we're aging according to chronological time. That's what it looks like. We say, well, that's normal. No, that's not normal. We need to now pull apart, take apart, and analyze what's really going on in our bodies. And we have never really done that. We have accepted the aging process. And because we have accepted it, we haven't done anything about it. We haven't challenged it. If you don't challenge this process, then we all continue to fall into the same pattern, generation after generation after generation. And this is unfortunate because what they're saying now is that this is the first generation of children that will not outlive their parents. And I wouldn't have believed that if I wasn't scanning kids anywhere from 9 to 16, and I'm discovering through biofeedback that these 14-year-olds are actually pre-diabetic. We're scanning 12-year-olds that are now building up plaque on their coronary arteries, which it's arteriosclerosis. So we're seeing arteriosclerosis in younger kids. What kind of life are they going to live by the time they turn 21 if they're now building up all of these degenerative diseases early in life? And you have to understand that these conditions used to be called age-related diseases. Now they're lifestyle-related. Well, what is that lifestyle? You know what the lifestyle is. It's the beef, pork, chicken, turkey, lamb, rabbit, you name it. Those warm-blooded creatures. Those are, unfortunately, the creatures that are actually clogging up our system. There's a reason that they're clogging up our system. Let's reason here together. Warm-blooded creatures have a higher body temperature than human beings. And because they have a higher body temperature than human beings, the oils and the proteins of these creatures are more stable under those higher temperatures. Those higher temperatures is anywhere from 102 to 103. What is our body temperature? Our body temperature is not hitting triple digits. We're at 98.6 degrees, sometimes 97. But the bottom line is that if we ever reach 102, that means that we have a fever and we're fighting infection. So we would have to be at an elevated fever, fighting infection in order to break down the proteins and the oils of the warm-blooded creatures. So because we're 98.6 degrees, our temperature isn't sufficient enough to fully break down their oils and proteins. So that's why it becomes sludge in our system. That's why it slows down our metabolism. That's why it clogs up our blood and it sends us straight to the hospital. Have you asked yourself, why is heart disease the #1 cause of death in America? It's because we're a country of herbivores eating like carnivores. We're a country of herbivores eating like carnivores. If God designed you a certain way and you're not eating according to that life script, then guess what? You're breaking a law, not man's law. I can run a red light and probably get away with it as long as I don't get hit in the intersection. But you cannot break God's law and get away with it, because the consequence is disease in the body, degeneration of the body, and weakening the immune system. So if you look at the characteristics of the animals that are herbivores that's in nature, we human beings have the same characteristics as those herbivores in nature. For example, let's take a horse. A horse is an herbivore. A horse is not a meat eater. A horse is not a carnivore by nature. And if you look at the characteristics of a horse, they have flat teeth, just like we do. They chew in the circular motion, just like we do. They have a long digestive tract, just like we do. Carnivores have a shorter digestive tract. They have different type of teeth. They even have a different type of hinged jawbone. We don't have a hinged jawbone that just go like this. We are able to go in a circular motion like a horse and a cow and a giraffe and an elephant. And these are still powerful creatures, and they don't eat meat. So the fact that we were lied to and told that, you have to eat meat in order to get your protein. Well, you will get protein from meat, but unfortunately, you don't need meat to get protein. Believe it or not, all protein comes from plants. All protein comes from plants. And what do I mean? What we need out of our diet are 9 essential amino acids. We don't need a complete protein, like let's say a chicken breast. What we need from that chicken breast is we need the amino acids from that chicken breast. But the question now is, how much energy is it gonna take to break down that chicken breast in order to get to those amino acids? That's why we tend to get sleepy, fatigue after we eat a big, heavy meal, especially if it's a steak, beef, or chicken meal. We tend to get the itis. That's what they call it. That's because now your body has to rally all of this energy to start working on liquefying that chicken breast, liquefying that steak. You see, so your body becomes a juicer, because everything that you eat, all food, has to be liquefied in your body. So the question is, well, either it's liquefied outside of your body or it's liquefied in your body. That's why the juicing regimen is so powerful, because you're juicing your fruits and your vegetables. So when you consume those juices, there's no energy expenditure. Now, the question is, what could your body do with all of that energy that it has now built up? Well, let's think about it in the form of a house. If you've been saving all year and you have not been spending, then now you have enough to put down for down payment. You can get a good mortgage. You can do all that stuff. Same with your body. When you conserve that energy in your body has reserved energy. You know what it can do with reserved energy? It can repair your kidneys if you're on dialysis. It can flush your liver if you're dealing with a fatty liver, which leads to fibroids. And if you flush the liver with that energy, then guess what's going to happen? The fibroids start shrinking. You see? So everything reverses when your body has sufficient energy for operating. If you're constantly expending energy and you're behind because you're spending a lot of energy on digestion, you don't have energy for your kidneys, you don't have energy for your liver, you don't have energy for any process in the body. So therefore, you can't reverse anything. In fact, everything starts getting worse. This is the habit that we have created over time because it was passed down to us. But guess what else was passed down to us? Diabetes, heart disease, cancer. And a lot of us, even on here tonight, know someone or have someone in your family that has experienced one of these degenerative diseases, or maybe even passed from one of these diseases. Some of us on this Zoom call have people in their family that has not lived past 80 or 85 or 90 or 95. Some of you may have some relatives that might have reached 100, and we clap and we applaud when our family members reach 100, but we have far more life in us than just reaching 100. Even the scripture says, man shall not always strive with me, but he is also flesh, but yet his years still shall be 120. Now, do you know anyone around that's living up to be 120 years young? Well, let's shoot for that first, but let's not shoot for it in a way where we just want to extend our lifespan. We want to extend our health span, which is the number of years you spend disease-free. So if you can reach 120 disease-free, then now you're having a better quality of life. And then from that point, you continue to manage your health. But unfortunately, what we're doing now is we were all born into the same healthcare system. I call it the so-called healthcare system. And this system has been pretty much training us to take what? Medication for our symptoms. So if we have an issue, we go to them, they diagnose us. Once they diagnose you, you're now filed into the system. Now there's a set path and set protocol for you for the rest of your life until you die. That's the healthcare system. I'm not saying that the doctors are mean and evil. They're a part of the system as well. But unfortunately, a lot of this system, this healthcare industry, was built on corruption, believe it or not. And this is the reason, you guys, why we know heart disease is number one. Cancer is the second leading cause of death in America. We're gonna ask a question. And I'm gonna give you guys a minute to put your answer in the chat. What is the third leading cause of death in America? What is the third leading cause of death in America? This is a test question. What is the third leading cause of death in America? Let me know what you think. It's important to know that. This is important to know because you're going to be shocked if you don't know, but you should know. The third leading cause of death in America. I got diabetes, heart attacks. Actually, heart disease is number one. We're looking at number three. What's number three? Who knows what number three is? Give me an idea. If you have any idea what the third leading cause, and even if you want to look it up, go ahead. So Fatima, you weren't supposed to answer, but you answered. You already know the answers. Kidneys, right? So I'm going to tell you guys. Fatima kind of put it up there. The third leading cause of death in America is a term called iatrogenic. In fact, I'm gonna write it, iatrogenic. Iatrogenic. It's called iatrogenic illness, which is illness and death from medical error and medical treatment. Medical error and medical treatment is the third leading cause of death in America. Did you know that? Did you know that you're more likely to die from going to see your medical doctor than a drive-by shooting in the worst neighborhood in the Black community? But unfortunately, when the news comes on, we're not hearing about the deaths in the hospital, which is up to thousands a day across the country. You see, so I'm saying this because we can't keep trusting our health and our life to those statistics. That statistic hasn't changed in a long time. They tried to replace it with COVID, but we're not gonna go there because it doesn't match that. This is a consistent statistics that's been happening even before the pandemic showed up. We were losing over 250,000 people across the country just from medical error and medical treatment. I say this to say that we have to start to invest in the alternative, which is holistic health care. Holistic health care is the true branch of healthcare. It should not be the exception. It should actually be the rule. But somehow we made God's medicine the exception and we made man's medicine the rule. Let God be true and every man a liar. This is the scripture. When you turn back to God's medicine, you begin to heal the body naturally, because God already knew what man was going to do. That's why he said, man shall not always strive with me. He knew that, which is why he knew at some point man was going to need the leaves of the tree, which are for the healing of the nation. And this is in Revelation. The leaves of the tree shall be for the healing of the nation. So if you want to heal the nation, you can't go to Abbott Laboratory. No, you have to go to the tree. You have to go to the ground. You have to go to the roots. You have to go to the herbs. So this process, this detoxification process, is about putting you on a holistic process, not to treat your condition, but to eradicate your condition. If I gave you a choice, do you want to treat your high blood pressure, or do you want to eradicate? What's going to be your answer? If I ask you, do you want to treat your diabetes just so you can control your blood sugar? Or do you want to eradicate diabetes altogether in your body? We never had that opportunity. We never had that choice. We were only given one choice. You got diabetes, you got high blood pressure, you got asthma, you have to take this medication. We didn't have, in other words, there was a monopoly on our healthcare. And I thought monopolies were illegal, but for some reason, they somehow created a monopoly and only allowed us to treat our conditions from a medical perspective, which is why it's the third leading cause of death in America, because you can't treat a degenerative condition with pharmaceutical drugs. You can't do that because pharmaceutical drugs are toxic. And all degenerative diseases are linked to acidity, toxicity, and oxygen deficiency. So you're telling me that I'm going to treat a condition that's caused by toxicity with more toxins. It doesn't work. That's why the system is failing us. So what Fatima and I have put together is a process, a program, not just for you, but for your friends, for your family, for your children. Something that puts your health back into your own hands. Something that allows you now to not feel helpless when you're watching your dad or your mom or your cousin go down the drain because of cancer. You now have something that you can put in your hands that you can help them with, guide them through the process. And not only that, but you got a team. You got me and over 200 other coaches across the country that supports each and every person that goes through this process. We have a team of people that look like us, you see? So that means that there's love. There's not a lot of love in the medical industry. I'm gonna tell you that now. There's not a lot of love. If I come to you and you have an issue with your uterus, let's say endometriosis, and I can't fix it because I'm not trained as a medical doctor to eradicate it, I'm trained to remove it. Why would I remove your uterus? Something God gave the woman, especially the Black woman, so precious. Am I saying that God made a mistake? No, God don't make mistakes. But man, unfortunately, don't have the information or didn't have the information on how to heal that uterus. I've done it. In fact, my son, Aviel Zion Prince, he's here because I helped his mom heal her uterus. With her first son, she wound up coding on the table. She had a cardiac arrest because the son, her first son was 10 pounds. So she wound up bleeding out and she almost lost her life after giving birth to her first son. So there was no chance of her having a second child because now she was in her 40s and she had her first child in her early 30s. And you know how it is. They say, well, you're at high risk when you wait to have your children. And I will say this, you are at a higher risk only if you choose not to prepare your uterus for that conception and that pregnancy. What I did with my son's mom is I took her through consecutive cleanses. She was cleansing quarterly. That means every 3 months, she was hitting that 3-week cleanse. She went from a size 12 down to a size 6. And she was still able to get into a 4. And she was about 5'8". But she did great. In other words, we healed her uterus. She had our son, her second son, in her 40s. as if she was in her 20s. The same medical doctors at Rush Hospital that was there in the ER when she coded with her first son came back for the delivery of her second son, expecting trauma. But what they got was disappointment. That pregnancy was so smooth, they wind up walking out of there with their heads down. And that's how it works. It doesn't matter how long you've been on the planet or how old you are. Once you start healing your body, healing your uterus, healing your prostate, God has set up for our bodies to regenerate and repair itself. Body was always designed to heal itself. But if you're not cleansing and detoxing periodically, then what you're doing is you're allowing the toxins to accumulate. And the body gets to a point where it can't eliminate it, it can't process it, it can't assimilate it. It only has one thing it can do: store. It stores waste in fat tissue. So the extra waste in the hips and the butt is stored waste. Here's the problem. It also dumps it into the organ systems. So for men, it's dumping into the prostate. So that's why by the time a black man turns 60, he has a enlarged prostate, because his body is using the prostate as a dump site. A person with diabetes, their body is using the pancreas as a dump site. Person with hepatitis, their body is using the liver as a dump site. Kidney failure, your body is using the kidneys as a dump site. These organs are not designed to carry waste. Every cell in your body, and you have about 50 trillion cells. Every cell is a mini you. Every cell in your body has organs. They call them organelles. Every cell in your body excretes waste. So that means that in order for the cell, in order to have top vitality, it has to get rid of this waste, eliminate it, so it can continue to process energy and to continue to function in a community of cells called organs. If waste is being dumped into the cells cannot function. They start to suffocate. You know what happens when a cell suffocates and it doesn't have oxygen? It mutates. And that's when they discovered that cancer was an anaerobic condition. It occurs in the absence of oxygen. And whatever causes that to happen is the cause of all cancers in the human body. That's your cause right there. Toxicity is the cause of cancer because it suffocates the cells can't breathe, and they mutate. So yeah, now you got a cancer diagnosis. But when you detox, guess what you're doing? You're now removing the stored waste out of the tissue, out of the organs, out of the joints. You're getting oxygen back to the tissue and cells, and the cancer cells will do one of two things. It'll revert back to a healthy cell, or it'll commit suicide, called apoptosis. All of this stuff we've done, we've been doing it for years: reversing cancer, reversing heart disease, reversing diabetes, shrinking fibroids, shrinking cancer tumors, correcting autoimmune conditions, reversing multiple sclerosis. You see what I'm saying? Eradicating leukemia. We don't need all the stuff that they're showing us on the TV from a medical perspective. All you have to do is go holistic. And there's nothing that you can't turn around, because holistically, there's nothing incurable, because everything is curable from within. So, you got any questions out there?